So a new survey found that a third of Canadians believe the federal Liberals and Conservatives have become extreme in their ideologies, leaving voters with more moderate views feeling like, quote, political orphans. Does anyone here feel that way?
Oh, political orphans. I'd never really heard of that term before. I understand what they're meaning, because I think a lot of people are just feeling like they're floating out there. We're just trying to survive, and no one is really speaking to us and our needs right now. And so which party's supposed to help us? It doesn't feel like, for a lot of people, they're getting help anywhere. So I guess that's where that term comes from. And even though the cynical side of me says, oh, yes, everyone's becoming more extreme, I don't think so. I think this is exactly how democracy is supposed to work. I think that there has to be a push and a pull, that idea of one step forward, two steps back. And I think anytime you've seen in the history of the world progress, there's a push and then there's a pull back by those who feel like they're losing power, who feel like the extreme by giving all people human rights and dignity is too extreme. So I think when you see a push and then you see a pull, it reminds us that democracy is exactly this. As long as people don't get apathetic, I think if this forces people to become more politically engaged, then I think this is actually not a bad thing. Even though people are having a hard time, it's going to force us to say, my elected leader must help me. And if that means you actually go to the ballot box for the first time, then this is a good thing.
But what if the elected leaders, yes, I agree. But for me, it feels like the elected leaders, they're being very murky. Everything feels broken right now, at least for me. Like the roads, the traffic, healthcare, the environment, housing. Everything feels broken. And you have politicians who are saying, I'm going to fix it, but they don't detail how. And no one seems to have a concrete plan, which leaves us just in less on the fringes and more just feeling murky. Like, can someone just fix it? No?
I mean, yeah, I definitely identify with this term political orphan. Like, I just feel sort of abandoned. And none of the options seem like any direction that I want to go into. So which means that at least in Canada, you can then focus on your local representative. And maybe that means for the first time that you might be voting in a different political direction than you ever have been before. I think therein lies where I do agree with his statement about extremism as well. Because unfortunately, it does feel like there's a draft that we're picking up from the States. I think social media exacerbates this negativity bias that we all have. We talked about it in the first topic in a way. We kind of listen more closely to negative things, whether they're about ourselves or about other people. So we get sucked in and whipped up by this rhetoric that we're seeing coming out of the States of like mudslinging. We've talked about it before, like the fact that Polyev has referred to Jagmeet Singh as sellout Singh repeatedly. It stirs people up. He's getting that kind of negativity out. And for me, it's a huge turnoff. It's a huge turnoff in all directions. So I think that's it. Like, I just have to focus on my local...
Your MP.
My MP, yeah.
See, what I took away from this was both the idea of the orphan, but also I question the assertion that Canadians are as divided as the polls would suggest. I actually don't think we are. I think there's a lot of common ground if we actually spoke to one another, regardless of how we voted. I think we would find that there's a lot more similarity in values than there are differences. And you mentioned social media. I blame algorithms.
Yeah.
Right? Anger is the most viral emotion. So what type of content are these platforms going to serve us? Angry content that reinforces what we believe about ourselves and about the other.
When in fact there's not as much discord as, let's say, X would have you believe?
Correct. Right. I think if we actually talked to each other and didn't just talk to other people who appear to think like us on social media, we'd all be better for it.
There's some, sorry, finish your thought.
Well, and I also just want to say, I also think leaders are playing into this. I just want to call it something that former Conservative leader Erin O'Toole said in the House of Commons. He said, politicians in this country are chasing likes on social media. He said, if Parliament is not careful, there will be a future generation of voters who have not ever heard a viewpoint different from their own. And he ended with this: as politicians in Canada, we're becoming followers of our followers when we should be leaders.
Yeah.
Good line. Good line.
Really good. Good line.
Gosh.
Hey, you, come a bit closer. We've got so many more must-see interviews, spicy debates, lifestyle tips, and pop culture moments. So subscribe to our channel by tapping the logo below and don't miss out.